Hi, my angels, and welcome back to another video. Now, today I want to give you that aha moment that completely changes the way that you look at manifestation. Now, have you ever noticed that every time something starts feeling familiar in your relationships or anything in your reality, maybe your brain immediately jumps to your past? So, if we're looking at relationships, maybe they take longer to text or they're starting to post more on social media, maybe they seem a little quieter than usual, and instantly your mind says, here we go again. This is exactly what happened last time. This is how it always starts. And I know this because I experienced it, and I also had a lot of clients, especially this last week, doing this exact thing. And this realization that I'm about to share really completely changed how they understood manifestation, because the trigger is never actually the problem. The problem is the story that you are automatically attaching to that specific circumstance and to that trigger, even in that moment. So when you're looking at this, every single moment is brand new, right now, this second. So the past has absolutely no power over you unless you resurrect it with your current awareness. So most people hear that and they think, okay, well, I'll just affirm harder then. It's okay. But that's actually where your blind spot lives, okay? Because you can affirm all day long. They're so obsessed with me. They're texting me. Everything's perfect. I'm his girlfriend. And then the second that you finish your affirmations, you're back on your phone. You're wondering why they haven't answered. You're rereading maybe the text thread, checking their Instagram. You're looking for that reassurance. But what you need to understand is every single moment in your reality is completely brand new. So in the law of assumption, the past has exactly zero power over you unless you resurrect it right now with your current awareness. So you can claim a new identity right now, the second. But if you cannot see the old story that you're still actively protecting, then that is how you keep recreating it under this disguise of a brand new affirmation. Okay, so this is like the blind spot of manifestations or the limiting beliefs, where that term came from, because you do not create this permanent change that you're seeking by assigning a completely new personality to another person. You're going to create that change permanently by becoming someone who experiences love, work, money, and people at whole differently. So changing yourself doesn't mean that you're becoming more impressive, more agreeable, or spiritually perfect. Let me have the perfect regulated nervous system. Let me go to the gym more, then let me do all these things so this person will want me or I'll become more desirable. If your self-concept is elevating to that, that's amazing, but it will be a natural guide, not an I have to do this, and then I know that I'm speeding up the process of my manifestation, because you're still leaning and working from that same identity that was hindering you. So what it really means is that you have to change this identity from which you are still interpreting and participating actively in your reality. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly why the SP movement often collapses, how these mass relationship narratives are really secretly programming your nervous system to expect failure, and how to genuinely build a self-concept that holds across love, career, money, and uncertainty. So first things first, a story feels like absolute reality when you are sitting inside of it. So, the nature of how this illusion works is that you usually typically can't see your own blind spot because you're so focused out there. Because most people are trying to even like guide themselves, and then it becomes a case of, the blind leading the blind. You buy the courses, you're trying the latest modalities, or you're exhausting yourself trying to revise every single childhood memory that you felt was, amplifying this identity. But it's all because you're still focusing on the symptoms instead of going to the root and identifying what was it within myself that resonated and created this. So you're trying to fix a mirror without changing your face. Okay. So while you may be affirming, he chooses me, but then you're still deeply identifying as someone who has to convince people to stay. And you're doing that through your emotions, your behaviors, and your thoughts. So when you are treating your specific person or these people in your reality as external obstacles to be kind of manipulated with techniques, you completely are going to miss the root. Because if you think the problem is out here, if you think the problem is their stubbornness, the distance, a third party, you're going to try to use these affirmations and techniques like a magic wand to change them. And it's like, oh, and then you're looking, okay? But you cannot change the reflection while leaving this original image still untouched. So I believe this is why so many people keep experiencing this exhausting cycle of temporary movement. So you have probably honestly lived this yourself too, because you're going to affirm intensely for a week, and then, all of a sudden your man's coming in, responding, breaks the silence, whatever. But the moment they step back into your reality, you then instantly, you're monitoring their movement, a small delay happens, they send an imperfect text, your nervous system is triggered, and you are assigning the exact same old meaning to that delay, and you're still reacting from your old threatened perceived identity. So within old days, that old pattern is going to appear to return. So the manifestation did not expose your failure, or it's not this person, or you messed up. It's just exposing your identity that has not yet become safe receiving what it is that you asked for. So if you take a step back and you look at how this loop traps you, you're going to realize that you are affirming 1,000 times that your SP is texting you. But the instant you're coming out of that rampage, you are literally looking at your phone, wondering why you don't have that message. So then you just slipped right back into that identity of I don't have it. And it's usually because your dominant identity maybe is still like, I'm someone who has to earn, prove, and work for love. So you made a conscious decision that you are receiving consistent communication. But because you're still unaware of these deeper stories running underneath, those hidden assumptions keep projecting out into your reality, and they keep causing these behaviors that are a mismatched identity. So it's where you're serving the two masters, like Neville said. So, why exactly is this old identity so incredibly sticky? It's because right now we live in a world where before Neville was here, we have social media that is constantly supplying you with ready made toxic interpretations of reality. So, we're swimming in a mass consciousness that romanticizes hypervigilance and betrayal and people not working out and cheating and being single and all of these things. And you're constantly, putting that into your mind every single day. So, you're seeing these viral TikToks, if he wanted to, he would, or never double text, or men always pull away after intimacy, I swear. Okay, there are literally influencers out here with millions of followers who will make these reels about spying on their boyfriends through like custom devices that they made and monitoring their every move, or, all these different things that people are saying that they did to be that crazy girlfriend that didn't, really feel safe in love, or look what I'm doing to my man, or, vice versa, the men and the women. And, from a distance at first, like, oh, it's funny, like, haha, like, me, I'm like, I used to be that crazy. But then when I'm changing my identity, I'm looking at this stuff. And then you're looking at these comments, and you have thousands of people like taking pride in that, like, hypervigilant state, oh, I'm jealous, I'm paranoid, oh, I act like this, I do this, and this repeated exposure becomes an expectation. Then your expectation becomes interpretation, and that interpretation becomes your identity. So these are not neutral jokes once they become the lens through which you filter your life and you're consistently claiming as your truth. So if you just watch 10 videos telling you that men always lose interest after intimacy while you're doom scrolling, and then let's say you check your phone, oh wait, my man didn't reply to me, it's been 3 hours, what's he doing? Your nervous system doesn't look at that as a joke. Your nervous system is now experiencing this as confirmation of a threat. It's not a neutral delay. It's not any other story, but now that you're hyper fixated on that, this must be my truth. So you're automatically painting people into these corners. You're labeling them based on global contract of victimhood that you voluntarily bought into. Okay. This is not healthy love. That is putting your power outside of you. So to really show you how fast reality bends and where the actual work lives, I have a success story. So this last week, well, we've been working together, but she got her success this last week. But her dominant subconscious core wound was, every time that I'm physically intimate with a man, he loses interest, he ghosts me, he pulls back, whatever, and I feel used and I feel easy. So she met this guy on dating apps. She loves her dating apps. I no issues there. If you guys love your dating apps, do whatever feels comfortable to you. But she was consistently being on these apps, and when she was noticing was the same pattern kept reoccurring. So then she was making all these stories mean things about herself, right? So within 2 weeks of knowing this guy, before she'd even mentioned commitment, he's telling her, like, I'm not looking for a relationship, I don't want this, you're cool to hang out with, whatever. And that immediately rocked her. So over the next few weeks, as these things were progressing, he kept mirroring her internal blind spot so perfectly, because he repeated that exact same line like 4 separate times. He kept texting it to her. He was saying it out loud, and she wasn't even like, engaging with that story. So within that of us talking, I was able to then expose her limiting belief that she couldn't see from inside the story. So we were able to completely strip the 3D of the authority that she'd been giving it, And we brought her awareness back to that identity of the woman who's chosen, valued, and securely loved. Not exactly in that context because, that was her personal story to flip. But that was basically what we focused on, and being that. And obviously, like being chosen, valued, and securely loved, having that identity, it's going to be expressed and look very differently for every person. So that's kind of why those generalized, affirmations don't always sink in whenever we're saying we're being chosen, and then looking out here and being mad that we didn't get that text, so I'm not chosen. So it means different things, different people. Not giving away too many of her details. I just wanted to share her story that she allowed me to. But basically, after that, he began texting her. He was flirting, asking her to bring her coffee to her job. And, she was able to remain anchored in the new awareness. And so this week, that same man who repeatedly insisted that he did not want commitment stepped forward and told her that he wanted a real relationship. Now, this is because she chose to stay consistent and anchored in her new self-concept. So that exact same guy who swore he didn't want a commitment completely turned around, and this week was able to give her that relationship proposal that she had been looking for. Okay, and now I know that the external movement happened quickly. I don't want you to compare where your timeline's at, but the reason that I'm saying this is because this had been a pattern for her for years and years and years. And the real work began when she had to stop interpreting his interest through that old fear. Intimacy, pleasure, love, all those things are not separate. They can all be manufactured into one thing when you look at it as a whole consciousness of what you want to experience in that relationship. Okay, so with her, we had to also navigate, like her being normalizing how to flirt, how to talk to him, what she was going to say back. Because a lot of us are looking for this behavior from someone else, but then when we get it, we don't even know how to actively engage with it because it's not normalized to us. So how do I flirt? How do I joke around? How do I just be myself? Those are genuine self-concept things that you just naturally develop and understand once you have that certain level of security and confidence in yourself and how you see relationships playing out for you. You're able to be authentic. So this is subjective work. It's not that one person can act this way and get that man, or one person acts this way and that's why she got her man. It's the simple inner knowing that you are chosen and you're being authentic to yourself, and this person loves exactly who you are. There's no mask, there's no pretending. You get to now see, oh, I have a blank canvas. This is exactly who I want to be in a relationship. This is how I want to act, and I know that person will love it and reciprocate that. Okay, so this new self is not, just merely getting chosen. She knows how to remain her authentic true self while being chosen. Okay, so this golden thread, doesn't just apply to romance, because you will often find the same exact underlying expectation appearing in maybe authority figures at your work or money. Different people may be standing in front of you, but you're meeting all of them through this identical identity. Okay, so if right now you want to look at the root of your patterns that you're having, so maybe with your SP, the identity is asking you, will I be chosen, or am I easily replaceable? So with your boss, that same exact identity asks, will my work be valued and will I be recognized, or am I going to continue to be overlooked? So maybe you face a job rejection and the identity is panicking. Does this outside decision now define my worth? And then with money, it can trigger, well, am I supported when I can't see the next step? And you want to go take action with all of these things. So for me, I realized that I was really waiting for change behavior to prove that I had changed and done the work. Okay, I was waiting for either my SP or maybe a new person, a consistent text, less social media activity, or whatever it was. It was just a completely different circumstance that I was looking at and expectations that I was holding in. Sorry, I keep getting calls. That I was trying to certify to myself that I was no longer the woman who experiences these patterns. Okay, so that was still making, though, the mirror my authority figure completely, because I kept asking the reflection, tell me who I am, prove it to me, show me, show me, show me. And then that's when it clicked. And that's when I was able to finally have a major revelation within myself that maps out the exact bridge that I think most people are missing. Okay, so the moment that I decided I am the woman who experiences healthy, stable love, that's already a new moment. Okay, no matter what happened in my past, I don't need my past self to approve that identity. And I don't need this present circumstance to verify it first before I can claim that. So anytime that a pattern is familiarizing itself, if your person gets distant or they start posting more on social media or they end it with you, okay, your brain is going to automatically keep jumping back to your past relationships and being like, see, this is the pattern. How do I stop it? but you're looking at their changed behavior or this particular circumstance to dictate whether you are healed or not. So you have to stop and recognize the story that you're actively telling yourself, because you're keeping yourself in this awareness loop of I'm still dominantly associating as someone that this keeps happening to me. Okay, so somewhere along the way, you just made that familiar trigger mean, well, see, I always attract emotionally unavailable guys then. And then you panic run, you go tell all your friends, or you force yourself into this aggressive rampage because you're so terrified of your own thoughts and what they could potentially create for yourself. Okay, so the secret is to naturally pause with yourself, understand and observe truly that these stories that are coming up are just stories, and you can separate your identity from them. So it's often too hard sometimes when you're starting off with this, to jump from a painful past experience directly into a dominant state. So you can build a bridge, across 3 separate moments and still be able to maintain that dominant identity and secure that. So you can acknowledge the past trigger neutrally. In the past, this used to raise red flags for me, and that's okay. Then, but this is a brand new moment, and I am now allowing myself to believe that a new story is forming. And then you'll feel yourself settle a little bit more. Then you can reclaim, now I am someone who experiences healthy, beautiful, long-lasting relationships. Love always works out for me. People admire and look up to my love story as pure inspiration. Okay? So whichever of those 3 moments that you choose to dominantly saturate yourself into is exactly what is going to keep projecting out into your reality. So this is why we write out every limiting belief on paper, and then we flip them into exact affirmations, or like if you're not doing coaching, now you have a blueprint, or you can be able to see during the day, when you're reflecting at night, well, maybe these thoughts came up, so how can I move differently tomorrow, right? That's still you taking action into being this new dominant state, because you're still aware of that pattern and that trigger, but you're separating yourself from it completely. Okay, so when those old emotions spike, you're not panicking, you regulate. You go on a walk, you do your EFT tapping, you take a shower, you eat good food to nourish your body, and then you redirect and say, okay, but this is who I am. And regulation is not me admitting that the old story is true. Tapping is not me trying to defeat a reality outside of me. Going on a walk is not me taking a break from manifesting. Okay, these are ways that I personally stop feeding the old awareness long enough to remember who I decided to be, because this technique is not the one creating the identity for me. It's just helping me return to the identity that I already chose. Okay. So in order to radically change your reality, you must cultivate a new baseline that remains steady regardless of what your 3D mirror is doing. Okay. So if you want, I'm going to do a little small rampage with you for a second. That way you can really see you stepping into your power and making sure you have a good core foundation for yourself. So if I were to do this, it would be, I am the ultimate architect of my reality. My awareness shapes my experience. I choose my life with intention and certainty. I know who I am. I know my worth, my confidence, and value are unwavering. I do not look to my current circumstances to decide what is possible for me. My identity leads, and my reality faithfully reflects it. Life is always working in my favor. The divine continually guides, supports, and provides for me. So I am safe in the unknown because I trust myself, I trust the law, and I trust that everything is unfolding perfectly. People naturally are going to recognize my value, respect my presence, and enjoy investing their time, their love, and their energy and opportunities into me, because I am so deeply appreciated, celebrated, and supported everywhere I go. That is so normal for me to experience. Love is so effortless for me. A healthy, secure, reciprocal relationship is my new normal. I am adored, I am pursued, I am cherished, and I am deeply valued by the people that I desire. Men naturally go above and beyond for me because loving me feels so natural. I'm good enough for this relationship. I'm good enough, more than enough, for the things that I want. I'm spoiled, I'm prioritized, I'm protected, I'm treated with genuine care and devotion. Love is never scarce. I live in a world overflowing with affection, kindness, support, and connection. I love the world that I live in. I know how to receive love with the utmost confidence, communicate with such deep security and authenticity, and create relationships that become stronger, deeper, and more fulfilling over time. When it comes to money, money flows to me with ease from expected and unexpected sources. Opportunities naturally find me, and my gifts are richly rewarded, and abundance continually expands in my life. I expect overflow because I live in such an abundant universe. I move through life with peace instead of fear, certainty instead of doubt, and I trust instead of trying to control every little thing. I do not chase, I don't force, or I struggle. I choose who I am, and reality faithfully reflects that choice. This is simply who I am now. Okay. Now you can tailor that, to whoever or whatever it is that you want, but that's what the baseline is. Okay. Who would you be today if you no longer needed your past to explain who you are? Okay. So the old story may still occasionally speak to you. It's okay, but it no longer gets to make your decisions. That's why you have the tools. That's why you have the techniques to pull you back into who you truly are. You do not have to fight it. You do not have to have a layout and revise your entire childhood tonight. And you do not have to force the 3D mirror to move. Okay. You are simply noticing the old identity. Stop feeding it with your attention. Take your hands off your phone, put it down, breathe, and choose again, okay? Because every single moment is brand new, and reality can only meet the version of you who is standing here right now. So if this video brought you your aha moment and your blind spot into the light, hit the subscribe button, drop a comment below on what identity you are choosing today, and I will see you in the next video, my loves.